could have done that better. Well, maybe, but maybe not. So, I think, Ron, I think you did a great, I think both of you guys did a great job in the pilot, and I wouldn't change a bit of it.
Well, the strange thing for me, I mean, in the pilot, I don't know if anybody notices this at all, but in the pilot, I was walking perfectly normally. I was trotting around, up and down stairs and things, and then the pilot finished, and I'd been in trouble with a certain amount because in 1974, I think it was, I fell into a swimming pool. And I broke my hip, and I was just about to start a massive television series in England playing Charles Dickens, in the life of Charles Dickens, and I couldn't afford to go into traction, so they put pins in this thing to pin it together, opened up, put pins in. Then a year later they took the pins out and they said, you're going to get arthritis, so I did. And they were dead right. So anyway, I suffered this for about 8 years, and after I'd done the pilot of Beauty and the Beast, I thought, well, I'll go back to England and I'll have my hip replaced. So I did do. I went back to England, I had my hip replaced, and it was a marvelously successful operation. And in order to get really fit for this television series, at the end of June, I went to a health farm, which turned out to be most unhealthy because I slipped coming out of the swimming pool and fell and broke the hip bone right across the false prosthesis they put in. So I now had this false hip which wasn't connected to my leg in any way, except with a broken. So they took me back and they pinned it. This happened on a memorable day, July the 4th, and we were due to start filming, I think, on about July the 20th. So I was in a mess, so I came back and I thought there was absolutely no chance of going to use me for the series. They would have to find a replacement. And then, they allowed me to use the crutch, and so Father got stuck with this crutch, which in the second and third series I no longer needed, but I had to use it because it was part of the character. And it got me a great deal of sympathy, I'm glad to say.
Couple more?
I want to thank you for making my dream come true and appearing here. I drove all the way from Chicago to see you. I have two questions for you. I want to know what kind of research you had to do for the role of Jacob Schuler in Stoning in Fulton County. And the second question, I heard you mention at one convention that you tried to do some of your own stunts. I wanted to know if you had ever gotten hurt doing those.
No, I never got hurt doing a stunt. The role of Jacob Schuler, they had the same guy who was the advisor on the Peter Weir movie, Witness. He brought along with him a lot of books, which I read, and some films which showed Quakers at work, Amish at work, and I just read as much as I could and saw as much as I could and tried to listen to. Unfortunately, we shot that movie in a part of the country where there isn't a great Amish population, but if we had, that would have been the perfect thing to do.
I have Amish people living in my community in that, so I love that role, and that was
Thank you.
It was really great. Thank you so much, Ron.
Mr. Perlman, my name is Andrew Rodriguez, and I'm from Ithaca, New York. I'd like to ask you a question about a comment you made on Pat Sajak's interview show about a year and a half ago about having gone into a hospital emergency room and, quote, they approached me as though I were the fountain of Lourdes, very close quote. There's also a verse in the Bible, in Revelation, which refers to Jesus Christ as the Lion of Judah. My question is, did you ever conceptualize Vincent as a messianic figure, a divine figure? Thank you.
Be like the Beatles, right? No.
Well, there were elements in his nature that recalled and beckoned to that figure. Certainly his self-realization, his incredible generosity. Those were all things that I had to tap into. Consciously, no, but I always realized that this was a being that was as close to the kinds of things that are described in that figure as you could find in dramatic literature. Never conscious, but always dancing around it. That answer your question? Okay, thank you.
thank our guests, Mr. Acovone, Mr. Dotrice, and Mr. Perlman for being with us today. They need to go freshen up. Whoa, wait, please. Please stay here. I have some announcements. They need to go freshen up. They're not going to be in the room for a little while, so let them go and I'll talk, okay?